with congressional candidate Lauren Ashcraft. I interviewed you at the Bernie rally, but I was kind of pressed for time because the rally was starting, so it's good to have a little more time. So you're up against Carolyn Maloney. Best way to describe her is kind of like mix Hillary Clinton with Nancy Pelosi, kind of stir it up, and there you go. She's been in office for a while there. Can you kind of talk about, people talked about it tonight at the event, but like New York, known as the biggest, best city in the world, it is an utter tale of two cities. I mean, even people kind of close to six figures are not exactly comfortable here. And you have a governor who is pretty moderate to Republican, and you have most of Congress here is on the no, we can't train on Medicare for all, a Green New Deal, now's not the time, Trump. You're running now for a couple months or longer than that. What's the feedback you're getting to your message?
So we've been canvassing since March and knocking on doors, and one of the things that I've found is that
sorry, I should ask you. Tell people where your district is in New York.
Oh, okay. So I'm in District 12, and that is the east side of Manhattan and North Brooklyn and Western Queens and Roosevelt Island. So it's kind of a circle around the East River. And it makes sense given that in all of the corners of the district, the number one concern that people have is that we're afraid we won't have a planet. So we surround the East River, and it's actually already flooding the shores of Manhattan, and we're seeing the impact in Queens and Brooklyn, and there are green spaces that are being destroyed right now, and families with children have nowhere to take their kids anymore. So these are the types of things that if we had a vocal leader for 26 years, which is how long Carolyn's been in office, if we had someone that was advocating for us the entire time and advocating to protect our planet from destruction, then we might not be facing this issue today. And secondly, the other concern that people have is single-payer Medicare for all. And so many people throughout the district have no health insurance, and even, for example, my partner who's here tonight has health insurance, accidentally went to an out-of-network provider, which wouldn't exist with single-payer Medicare for all, and ended up with a huge bill that he's going to be paying back for a very long time. So these are the issues that, the we can't do that people in office are going to keep saying, oh, well, things won't get better. We don't have the money. We don't have the resources. We absolutely do. And I've been lucky enough to meet with experts in economics who have pointed out to me and are very vocal advocates for the fact that anytime that a federal politician says that we don't have the money for something, it's a choice, because the federal government actually has the power to coin more currency. And the thing is, we just throw unlimited amounts of money at war, and we've spent so much money putting people in prison and ruining their lives and creating a system that they can't escape from. But what would happen if we spent that money on bettering people's lives, such as making sure that if you have an illness, go to the doctor, please. Don't think about how much it'll cost, because it'll get a whole lot worse if you sit around and wait. And every time that someone's homeless in the district, which we have a lot of people sleeping on the streets, and it's cold, it's getting really cold right now. Every time that there's someone sleeping on the streets, it's a failure of every single representative that should have been fighting for them. And we absolutely do have the money to abolish homelessness. We have the money for single-payer Medicare for all. I am fighting to make public transportation free, because right now...
You got the police out here in New York are like the Gestapo. You got 20 police jumping on young black men for the crime of not being able to pay for the nearly $3 a ride subway fare.
I don't see the kind of vocal advocacy about that particular issue. It is basically a crime in the United States, including in District 12, New York, to be a black or brown person and to be poor. And we're seeing that with how people are treated in the subway system. If you don't have $2.75 and you jump the turnstile trying to get to work to earn that money, you get a loaded weapon pointed at you, and you get arrested, and you get a record. And that's exactly what we need to topple with true criminal justice reform and decriminalizing poverty and decriminalizing black and brown bodies.
You know, it's interesting. You were describing what most would describe as modern monetary theory, where government prints the money for war. Our taxes don't cover, 7 or 8 trillion in Iraq, Afghanistan. They have plenty of money to give subsidies to Goldman and Raytheon and Pfizer. All of them get it. ExxonMobil. But AOC said it recently. We asked, how do you pay for it on the moral issues? I actually found it interesting, the cognitive dissonance, when Hillary Clinton and her daughter went on The View in the aftermath of Bernie Sanders' heart attack.
You know, you just heard about Bernie.
Yes.
Sending
Let's all
your best.
wish him and hope for the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you have chest pains, please go to the doctor.
Yes.
You know, particularly men, because although heart disease is more pervasive in women, it's more fatal to men because men wait too long.
Yeah.
So I just am so grateful that Senator Sanders had a chest pain yesterday and immediately went to the doctor, which is what we hope any man in our lives would do.
Because they were saying, as if anyone just can, as soon as you feel something wrong in your chest or whatever, go to the doctor. And I thought to myself, not everyone can go to the doctor. Or people would think, well, it'll get better because I don't want to bankrupt myself.
No, I have had insurance, and I literally think about what my co-insurance bill would be, and I think about going to the doctor. And that's somebody who's had a full-time job with health insurance, and that's a privilege in our society. And a family member of mine actually almost died because he was worried about a co-insurance bill, and went to the doctor after waiting, thinking that maybe he had the flu, that it would go away. It turned out that he had an obstruction in his intestines, and he almost went septic and died. So these are the things that we can just, it's so frustrating because we don't have to live in a society where you think about the cost of not dying, and then you spend the rest of your life paying off a medical bill because you didn't feel like dying that day. It's ridiculous. And whenever I hear politicians still talking about having an option of private health insurance, an option of Medicare, to me, you're compromising on lives, human lives. And it's not good enough that we have this entire industry that just siphons money and profit from both sides. I want to go to the doctor and not think about the cost, just like you would in any other first world country right now, basically. And right now we have an entire industry just existing for profit in the middle of me and my doctor. And politicians get money from that industry, from the lobbies, and they're out there lying about the fact that we can't afford that when we absolutely can. So I am for single-payer Medicare for all with no compromises, because I am not okay with compromising further human life.
And I don't want to get your ego too happy, but I'm going to make a comparison between you and Bernie. Part of your district, Upper East Side of Manhattan, some of the wealthiest people in America, including the hedge funders, including the bankers, live on the Upper East Side as well as the Upper West Side. A lot of the lavish fundraisers Joe Biden's been going to in your district. So reason would stand, they're not exactly into somebody challenging someone who's been very good for them, Carolyn Maloney. Can you kind of talk about you're running in that, it's not your entire district, but you're running in a district with extreme wealth, not the whole district, but parts of it, like the Upper East Side, with from finance to other special interests. How do you take on that successfully?
So one of the things is we have been out canvassing since March, and I've had the privilege of meeting people in all of the corners of my district, and I'm humbled all the time, because any kind of preconceived notions that you have knocking on someone's door, thinking that they'll react in a certain way, I'm always completely blown away by the reactions and conversations that I have with people. I've been in $20 million condos where people ask me, why doesn't the federal government tax me more? And
You should tell them to invest in status quo next time.
yeah, sure. If you're listening right now. Yeah, but I'm humbled all the time. And just because we have some of the wealthiest corners of the district in District 12, it doesn't mean that they don't have the same end goals as the rest of us. And Carolyn Maloney has had a lot of support from corporate PACs who clearly don't want someone like me in office. And I think if we're looking at where the people power is coming from and what the people want, it's my platform. And I'm really excited about the passion that we've seen from people in the district, and our volunteers have grown to over 200 members right now, and we're just feeling a lot of momentum. But the thing is, the district wants change, and people want to be represented, and they want to be represented instead of profit, no matter who you are and what corner of the district you live in, and that's what I'm fighting for.
And lastly, I think a big issue in New York City, I'm sure you're hearing about it. I mean, being black is kind of a pre-existing condition.
Yes.
You look at, obviously, it took 5 years just to get the officer fired who strangled Eric Garner to death. And even with that, the commissioner did not look happy having to fire Daniel Pantaleo. Obviously, the police here, I mean, it's like an occupying force. Black, brown people, just from the incidents we've seen at the subway that have gone viral to in the streets. Are you seeing kind of enthusiasm among the black and brown, especially young people, for your message? And how do you kind of better protect them if you were elected into Congress? Because the New York Police Department is like the Chicago Police Department. They think they don't have to follow laws or procedures.
So we are fighting for true equality of everyone, and that's something that our district and our country have not seen. And some of the things that we are going to pinpoint is, number one, we absolutely owe the descendants of humans that were used as slavery reparations. And we absolutely need to end this the drug war, and which is based on racism. And I stand for decriminalizing all usage of drugs and releasing everyone who's been imprisoned wrongfully for drug usage-related crimes. We need to legalize marijuana and use the proceeds and the revenue from that, direct it towards the people who've been most affected by the war on drugs, which again is based on racism. And again, like you mentioned, we do have a war on poverty here in New York City. I want to make public transit free and federally funded, which is absolutely possible. And there shouldn't even be turnstiles. If we want to move towards a Green New Deal, we need to incentivize people using public transit instead of everyone taking an individual car. And so whenever we're looking at the things that cause oppression in our society, such as crime, mass incarceration is racist. And the death penalty is racist. There's someone sitting on death row in Texas right now who's innocent. And whenever we're looking at police brutality, it's racist. And I'm horrified at the fact that the Jefferson family has had 2 losses, not just one, because Tatiana's father just passed away from a heart attack because of the tragedy that he has lived through. And there are so many victims of systemic racism throughout our entire country, and we would like to get to the root of that problem and tackle it through true representation of everyone and advocacy for true equality within Congress.
And where can people find out more about your campaign?
So I am at laurenashcraft.com, and you can also follow my social media at VoteAshcraft.
We'll keep in touch. Thank you very much.